Good day to everyone. Today in this video we will fight against the adversary of our world around us, and today we will fight against another common myth that is called universal basic income. So it can be translated like unconditional income, the income one is supposed to get only just for existing. You are a citizen of some country or resident and you are getting some universal basic income because you exist. And now, of course, it's a sort of communism. We know theory always sounds good, like demanding from everybody according to his or her skills and awarding them according to his or her needs. In theory, all looks fine, but we already tested it for many decades in many regions of the world, and it always ends up tragically with terror, genocide, wars, and so on. This time it won't be different. But as of now, in some countries, in small areas, the idea of universal basic income was already tested, and as always with socialists, no one knows the real outcome of it because these data are becoming silenced. Actually, it's hard to dig them out, hard to get them, to really study what happened. But do we really need an access to this data to know what really happened? Of course not. It was one big collapse and disaster because this universal basic income, it's too low in most cases to cover basic needs of people. Basic needs defined by officials who are disconnected with reality, because countries like Canada, which went the French way of administration, the officials are like civil servants, so after their high school they go to the office and they are sitting them all the time and they are thinking how to make life of other people better, in practice more difficult and hard to stand. So how to poison the life of other people. So all of these calculations, all of these plans, all of these implementations are done by disconnected people like Mr. Klaus, like Mr. Billy Bill, and other rich disconnected idiots. And on the lower level are implemented by also disconnected officials who never left the office of their working place. Working in quotation because they don't work. So we see, so it cannot work, and the idea itself is also completely unrealistic. But what it means, because it's called universal basic income, that one should translate unconditional income. But is it really unconditional? Actually not, because giving people something like social welfare, some benefits, some universal basic incomes, blah 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 blah, is making them dependent from the state or from the organization that is distributing this money to them. How can these things be manifested? For instance, if you are given this officially universal basic income, so unconditional, we are giving this to you, we demand you to serve in the army, fight war that it's not yours, accept some medicaments we tell you are good for you, or we call them medicaments but they are not medicaments, vote for this and this party we want you to vote, support this and this initiative we want you to support. Doesn't matter if it serves you and your kids, doesn't matter, because it has to serve us, because we pay you, so you need to be obedient. And if we teach you not to work but being awarded only for the fact that you exist, you are losing your ability to gain your own funds and your own money, so you are becoming dependent on us, governments or corporation governments. So you should be obedient to us and do what we want you to do, accept everything we want you to accept. Simple. So please come back to one of my movies where I proved that that welfare state, so actually socialist state in practice, in this sense, welfare state is the negation of freedom of individual, complete negation of freedom, because you cannot be dependent if you do not have your own resources to live. You cannot You cannot gain them thanks to your work, or you cannot create them by yourself, so you are dependent completely on the people who are giving this to you. It's obvious for people who think. Another example of country which supposedly is purely socialistic and supposedly takes care in quotation of their own citizens, such pathology, is North Korea, ruled currently by the Fati guy. And the Fati sends many daughters and sons of his nation for the slavery labor camps in Gulf and other countries, where they are employed without any insurance, without any precautions, and so on and so on. They are employed to build great buildings or to participate in constructions of great mega projects that are being realized in this country, are being ongoing. And this is done because the Feti needs dollars, so he is sending his people, many of them die of course working in such conditions, to work for these dollars he needs. But officially his country provides everything to its people, so they should be loyal, they should be obedient, because officially they live thanks to the country and thanks to the Juche system. So Juche system very often demands absolute obedience and demands their blood, their work, their lives. This is how the idea of universal basic income, if it worked, but it will not, of course, as all communistic socialistic idea. This is the example of corpo communis idea. Communism ruled by great corporations and neo-Marxist ideologies who are financed by these corporations. When we see how it will not work, of course it will lead to poverty, crisis and disaster, because all attempts to implement really disconnected ideas finish bad, and we see how it doesn't work. Of course, that's why universal basic income is tested in some countries in small areas on relatively small groups of people to see how according to these people, how it works, but actually how it will not work, and more people we involve into it, bigger disaster will come. So this is how I see it. But in my opinion, it shouldn't be the main concern of many people who think on their own that some countries are testing universal basic income. It was made loud in the internet by many medias, by many people who are watching the situation and are concerned about this was happening. But in my opinion, it's another smoke cover, this basic income story, just to keep people who think busy with this and fight against it, with the protests, with the internet, with the media and so on, to make a smoke cover on inflation, on increasing control of the citizens, and on mismanaged by our economies, mismanaged of our economies by our political elites, no longer cultural elites, and to really not see what's really happening. So that we are paying with great inflation for 2 years of madhouse that we experienced recently, and many irresponsible decisions that were made without consulting them with the societies, and even with a huge part of elite that didn't have enough influence to stop it. All the best. I wish you nice day and many reflections. And remember that most likely the whole issue of universal basic income, it's another smoke cover of real problems, so inflation and increasing level of surveillance we are experiencing in many countries. Bye, have a nice day.